Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punch
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Thursday, September 28, 2023, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The seven dwarfs running for Republican nomination for president were on stage last night at the Reagan Library. And there's a whole bunch of crap being said, but Senator Tim Scott said one of the dumbest things we've ever heard. And I'm going to deconstruct this ridiculous comment from this black man from South Carolina. He should know better. Also, Republicans open up their impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden. How y'all gonna bring witnesses who ain't got no evidence? Well, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas lit into him. So did Congressman Jamie Raskin, and we're gonna show you all of that. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Florida today, continuing her tour across America with various colleges and universities. We'll show you some of what she had to say. Plus, little Miss Flint is here as she continues the battle. What the hell are we doing, guys? As she continues the battle to get a water filter, to get clean water in Flint, Michigan. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got whatever the best, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks, last night, the Republican candidates running for president, except Donald Trump, 7 of them were on stage at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, and a bunch of stuff was said, a whole bunch of shouting, yelling, screaming, a bunch of nonsense. Moderators could not control the debate. But there was one point where Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Tim Scott began to talk, and I don't know what the hell they were talking about, but I got to break this thing down, especially dealing with Senator Tim Scott. He should know better. Watch this.
Florida's new Black History curriculum says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. You have said slaves develop skills in spite of slavery, not because of it. But many are still hurt. For descendants of slaves, this is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal. Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report. My wife and I, we have a 6, 5, and 3-year-old. This is personal to us. We didn't just talk about universal school choice, we enacted universal school choice. We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights, we enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
Senator Scott, you oppose to these new standards. What is your message for Governor DeSantis?
There is not a redeeming quality in slavery. He and Kamala should have just taken the one sentence out. America has suffered because of slavery, but we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the household to get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family. Our nation continues to go in the right direction. It's why I can say I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth.
Okay. Let me go to my guest first. David Pate, visiting associate professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, joins me right now. Doc, glad to have you on the show. There is so much that I'm about to deal with. I'm going to be real nice while you're here. I'm going to have my say after the fact. So let's deal with Senator Tim Scott, starting with this. Oh, we survived slavery. Actually, no. I'm going to go before that. When he actually, in a very smooth way, tried to suggest that the ills that we still face today somehow do not have a connection to what happened during those 230 plus years, as if you did not continue to have slavery without shackles for the 10 to 12 years of Reconstruction, the 92 years of Jim Crow. And so this notion that we cannot trace the economics, the education, health, all of that to what we went through then and after, he acts as if, oh, everything was just wonderful. We survived and we're thriving.
The devil's in the details, that's for sure. He's not acknowledging...
The details or a history book?
The history book and the details are both being denied here. You know, the one thing that always gets me is people don't recognize that, or don't want to recognize, that those who came over and colonized this country had 500 years to be the best they can be. When one group of people weren't given citizenship rights to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to be the best they can be, and they've only had 150 plus years to do that. But people are expected to ignore all of the atrocities and the discriminatory behavior that has followed even the right to citizenship with the 14th Amendment. So not acknowledging any of the history around the Homestead Act or the racial wealth gap or current median income or discriminatory practices is just ludicrous and not being honest.
And not only that, and I'm going to come back to the Homestead Act because I want to play what MLK had to say about that. He talked about surviving poll tax. Literally, the day before the Republican right-wing Supreme Court refused to hear the emergency appeal of the state of Alabama, who literally was trying to destroy black representation by not creating a second congressional district the day before. And so when Tim Scott stands there and acts as if we still are not dealing with the after effects of white folks trying to deny the right to vote, as if, oh, we survived that. Bruh, we were dealing with it the day before the debate.
Yes. And, the thing that's also not interesting, when he said racism is gone, there was a study just came out in November by the Pew Research Center that said 2/3 of America believes that racism still exists. And that included Democrats and Republicans. They may disagree on how racism plays itself out, but people believe racism still exists. Now, the other 30% of people who don't agree with that or whatever it is, the 35%, that's a whole nother, that's where it looks like Senator Scott's in that pool. But there is valid evidence that shows people believe it's there. They may not believe it's structural. They may believe it's individual. But racism is existing. And racism is in the soil of America, whether we want to admit that or not.
Well, I think part of the deal here is that Tim Scott is sort of thinking and operating like many white Christians in this country. Anthony, go to my iPad. This is what you were talking about. Pew, white Christians say too many see racism when it's not there. New poll finds. So that poll you're talking about, other folk are saying, no, we see racism. Tim Scott is staying with those same white evangelical Christians, right wing, who say, we don't see it.
Well, they don't feel it. It's not happening to them. So that's why they don't feel it, but it's there. And people know it's there. I mean, we don't want to admit that how this country was defined, how this country's been built on the backs of people who were black or were enslaved. And they don't want to admit that we've had to have constitutional laws to make people full citizens. And it still is a consistent issue of concern for people who live particularly in the South, but all over America. Even in Wisconsin, this issue of having to have your ID to go vote is a real issue of looking at a poll tax in a different way. It's still a poll. It still has the tenets of what a poll tax is, because not everybody has a driver's license, particularly when you're in a state like Wisconsin, where you have the highest level of black male incarceration, and oftentimes it's hard to get that driver's license to get your ID to be able to vote. So there's various other ways that are not always as visible, but they still are providing the same practice of, I do not see you as my equal. I see you as less than, and I support that in whatever way that maintains my position of superiority.
You mentioned MLK, you mentioned the Homestead Act, and this is the MLK Republicans are never going to repeat. They love talking about conscience of character and all that sort of stuff. But you're never going to hear them play this MLK quote at any of their events. And to be honest with you, not many black folk would do the same. Go to my iPad, Anthony.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Now, Doc, here's what I find interesting, Doc. You heard MLK in that very speech there talk about land grant colleges and universities. Next Tuesday, in Tennessee, the students there are going to be holding, I'm going to show it in a second, students there are going to be holding an event, a town hall there, demanding the billions of dollars that they are owed. The Biden administration sent letters, Cardona and Vilsack sent letters to various states saying $13 billion is owed to HBCUs who were shorted over the years land grant money. Go to my iPad. This is the rally at Tennessee State is going to be having on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. So here you have Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina standing there talking about how we survived, and here we are in 2023 still talking about those very institutions MLK mentioned, those land grant schools being deprived of $13 billion, but on the end, Tim Scott saying, oh, there's no racism in America. Well, Tim, how is it the black colleges didn't get the same money as the white schools?
You know, the issue here is that if we maintain an anti-black way of life, which is very prominent in society, we're never going to, we're not going to receive the same level of respect, the same level of support. You know, it just is all about this whole idea that meritocracy is the basis for how everything works. But not everybody is given the same level of access or the same level of privilege to be able to maintain and get to what we consider the American dream, but also the level of well-being that they deserve, because we have to admit there's a discomfort with blackness. And so many studies have just brought that up more recently. Studies by William Darity, by Derek Hamilton, by Trina Shanks, all well-known scholars. And even Raj Chetty most recently did a study out of Harvard where he looked at people who had the same income, high incomes, who are black and brown and white. Still, you will find that there's discriminatory practices that do not allow for those who are black and brown to still maintain the same level of parity as their white counterparts. We have a discomfort with blackness, And that needs to be acknowledged, and that's not what's being talked about.
And there are black people who have a discomfort with blackness, who are trying to appease and make certain white folks comfortable, and that's literally what Senator Tim Scott was doing. Go to my iPad. This is from the InsideHigherEd.com, and this is from their story last week on HBCUs being underfunded. And so here's what I find to be interesting right here, Doc. If you look at this chart right here, when they broke down the analysis, Tennessee, $2.1 billion. North Carolina, $2 billion. Florida, $1.9 billion. Texas, $1.1 billion. West Virginia, $852 million. Georgia, $603 million. Alabama, $527,000. Boom, Doc. South Carolina, $469.9 million. So one of the two senators from South Carolina stands before Republicans and says there's no racism. Black people survived slavery. We didn't really survive LBJ's The Great Society. Yet the man then says, oh, ain't no racism in America, and his own state HBCUs right here are owed $470 million.
Yes. You know, I think often people do not take in, well, one, I think people don't critically think enough. That's a real issue that I'm concerned about. But also, I think people don't, they think of racism as, I treated you badly, or I hit you, or they think of slavery as racism. They don't think of practices that are structural, that makes it difficult for those who are socially constructed as black or brown, or Latino, however people define themselves, as being, and also they are put into this category of being undeserving, which has been a reality for people since people were brought to this soil as enslaved people, and denied the same privileges. And we see it a lot with, even more recently, with immigration practices directed at those who identify as Mexican. We don't want to admit that we don't provide those same opportunities, and that we don't want to admit historically the social networks that other people have been able to have with the Homestead Act, looking at the GI Bill, looking at redlining, looking at median income. Median income right now for blacks is $52,000 compared to whites is $75,000. And we've seen that historically, that those who are black have always been in a space where they have not had the same amount of income. We're not even talking about wealth, just basic income. Black people are getting paid 74 cents on the dollar to their white counterparts for the exact same job. So either we have decided that those who are black are lazy, or they don't have the same mental capacity, and that's just not true. When he brought up the whole idea that fathers are not involved, black fathers were documented as being the most involved fathers by the federal government. They did their own study and proved that. So again, the devil's in the details, and read your history book, read your own data that comes out of the government which you represent.
Oh, but Dr. Pate, hold up. How about read your own history? Tim Scott's daddy divorced his mama.
Oh.
Tim Scott's daddy divorced his mama, and he has talked about how his mama raised him and his brother as a working class poor woman. Go to my iPad. This is literally from Senator Tim Scott's own Facebook page. Listen.
Senator has written a new op-ed published today in the Washington Post. It's titled, "Abortion is Not the Way to Help Single Black Mothers." Senator Scott joins me now in an exclusive interview in Focus. First of all, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I want to know what went through your mind as she was saying those words. Translate what you heard and why you felt, because it was very uncharacteristic to see you at times, just lean in so hard. Why'd you feel like you needed to do it?
I was compelled to do so, to be honest with you. I could not believe my ears. She was responding to a question, so it was completely unprepared, unfiltered, and her response was to, in my opinion, provide a calloused approach and a solution, a remedy, for blacks living in poverty being abortion. And as a guy who was raised by a powerful, positive black woman in poverty, in a single-parent household, I know that sometimes broken places is where you find brilliance. I know that sometimes hard work and dedication...
Right there. So here's what's interesting. Lyndon Baines Johnson was pushed by the likes of Dr. King, Congressman Adam Clayton Powell, Roy Wilkins, NAACP, Whitney Young, Urban League, Dorothy Height, National Council of Negro Women, so many other organizations, CORE, SNCC, to confront poor in America. He complains about the Great Society and when they provided resources to single mothers where there was not a father present. And so he's criticizing that. He's talking about his own mama. And the reality is, white women, poor white women, benefited from this. And if you actually look at the stats, because you always had a lower rate of fatherless white homes, the data shows that white families, it tripled the number of fatherless homes in white America. In black America, it doubled. And so the reason I'm talking about this is because so many black folks, preachers and other politicians, throw this figure out. 73% of black families have no father in the home, and it's because of LBJ's Great Society, where they gave checks to women if there was no man at home. Yet these are the same folk who want to cut benefits. So I'm confused. If you're Senator Tim Scott and you believe that the Great Society was wrong for giving women greater benefits if a man wasn't present, and saying, well, that ran the man out, well, they don't support giving those benefits to the women if the man is still there. And so they trying to sit here and play the okie doke as if we don't understand what's going on here.
You know, the thing about, and I appreciate your what you just said too, because welfare, when it was first created, was an entitlement. The ADC program was an entitlement, and it was a response.
30 years before LBJ.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And it was a response, and it was also a response to helping white women, and Social Security was a response to helping white families. So, and it was a response to helping white working families, because blacks were not allowed to be in those positions where they had a government check, as my research participants will tell me, where they had taxes taken out, because they were only allowed to have what was called menial jobs of being housekeepers and farmers, and they were paid in cash. So that initial program was not meant for blacks, and that's a misnomer, a miseducation people don't understand. And then when it became available as an AFDC program, black women had to advocate to be on the programs. They were denied often access to those programs because and it was an entitlement for American citizens who were experiencing poverty, not because they were just trying to get over. They had to take care of their children, and they could, and it was about the whole idea of looking at a benefit that was entitled to them. So this whole thing of looking at the father in the household, and that's why fathers aren't there, that was a policy that was developed in New York. It became more of a national policy, and then became unconstitutional because the policy was an entitlement. And so anyway, it's just very frustrating because people don't understand history. They don't read, and people need to read their history. And also this whole idea of the welfare queen was a mythical person that was created by President Reagan.
Hold up, hold up, stop. You mean the person where whose library the debate was at last night?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I mean, the woman, Miss Taylor, who was the welfare queen in Chicago, was someone who was a criminal. And people can be black, white, Asian and be criminals, but they decided to focus on this one white black woman as the image of what welfare became. And therefore, people have now since believed that there's more people, and you said it, more people on welfare who are black. And the reality is there's more white people in this country who are poor because there's more white people, and more white people were on welfare. And I think we don't, and that's just a simple reality.
And see, Doc, here's the thing that I would just love, because see, Tim Scott, he ain't coming back on this show. Because see, he barely wanted to come on my TV One show because it's too much heat. This is what I would say to Tim Scott. Tim, why was your mama in poverty? Exactly what was happening in America where your mama was in poverty? And so here's a black man standing up, oh, I was raised by a powerful single woman who was in poverty, working class, and me and my brother were able, they saw the brilliant, first of all, it was a whole bunch of brilliant black people who were brilliant in poverty. But what Tim Scott will never address is why his mama was in poverty. He won't address Jim Crow. He won't address that black folks were frozen out of many city, county, state jobs, federal jobs, frozen out of corporate America. Black folks who were brilliant minds, who were reduced to being janitors, and garbage collectors. He ain't gonna talk about what the garbage workers in Memphis were being paid when Dr. King went there in 1968. He's not going to talk about why folks were in poverty. He won't even address why there was a great society from President Lyndon Baines Johnson. He's not going to talk about before the very people there that the same person who they're praising, Ronald Reagan, was standing against selling homes to black folks in California. They ain't gonna talk about any of that. Oh, I'm sorry. He ain't gonna talk about redlining and that it was the realtor industry that created that, which had a direct impact on black wealth. No, what they want to keep doing is saying how the Great Society was a failure. Well, if you gonna call the Great Society a failure, Doc, you got to call all of those government welfare programs that Franklin Delano Roosevelt created for white folks in West Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, where they literally were funding stuff for them to build and was like, yo, just build some stuff because we got to get these folks working. And it was white folks who were benefiting from that, and those white folks were able to get jobs. They were able to sit here and buy homes and send their families to school. But it's amazing how we forget the white folks who got welfare, but he wants to focus on the black mothers who got checks under LBJ.
And that makes it easier for them because people believe that particular myth. But they don't want to look at historically what has been done for people like you just said. And I think it's unfortunate because we need to really get better at educating everybody, black and white and brown people, about how this country has really caused harm for some families in their ability to really move to a place where they're financially secure and economically well off. Because it's not because they're lazy, it's not because they don't want to work, it's because there have been purposeful practices that have been put into place that have not ever allowed people to be all they can be, particularly those who are black and brown.
And he's running around talking about the opportunity zones when I had one of the preachers from Baltimore who was at the White House with him and Donald Trump, who came on my show the day they announced it, touting it, yet he came on the show 6 months later and said those same opportunity zones are an abject failure and not helping the people who are poor living in those areas. But then Tim Scott somehow is thinking that his opportunity zones are creating real opportunities for poor black folks right now, and we all know that's a flat out lie.
Yeah. Other thing he said, too, that I thought was interesting, where he said capitalism is not alive and well, and we need to bring it back. Capitalism is definitely alive and well, and definitely working in the way that it's supposed to work. There are people who are very poor, so that some people can be very rich. That's the simplest way to look at it. But I just found some of his statements just to be just sound bites. They're not without any real substance to what is the reality of the world we live in. And the reality of the world we live in is racism is alive and well. It's in the soil of where we are, but also meritocracy is alive and well. And it works for some and not for others, based on the color of their skin and their gender and their sexualities in some cases, and how they tend to define themselves. It's just unfortunate.
And I can guarantee you that all of mainstream media combined today will not spend as much time on this topic that we have. And that's also part of the problem because they ain't trying to have that conversation.
Yeah, and it's a real conversation. And I really applaud you for all you've done to bring these issues to the forefront in the country that doesn't often want to have a discussion about race in a way that's unfiltered, so I definitely want to thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Dr. David Pate, University of Wisconsin, Madison. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
All right, gonna go to a break. We come back, we're gonna pick up on this. I know Reese and Lauren got something to say about this, and so we're gonna hear from them when we come back. Right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We ain't done with you, Tim Scott.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, less than 5% of the top executive positions in corporate America are held by women of color. We know it's not because of talent. A recent study says that it's microaggressions, unconscious bias, and limited opportunities being offered to women of color. On our next show, we're going to get incredible advice from Francine Parham, who's recently written a book sharing exactly what you need to do to make it up into the management ranks and get the earnings that you deserve.
I made a point to sit down and I made a point to talk to people. And I made a point to be very purposeful and thought-provoking when I spoke to them.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, the amazing Drew Dixon.
She gives us the details behind the HBO documentary that shed light on the alleged sexual assaults by Russell Simmons.
And we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Ladies First, right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Staying balanced is tough enough with the normal day-to-day stuff going on. But what happens when we get the unexpected? It may come crashing down through a bad diagnosis for either you or a loved one.
My son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came out of a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business.
How to cope and even stay balanced when even the walls are crashing in. That's on the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Reese Cobra's host of the Reese Cobra Show, Sirius XM Radio from D.C. Joins us right now. Law Victoria Burke, of course, Black Press USA from Arlington. Folks, Dr. Greg Carr is swamped with stuff on the campus of Howard University. He's not with us here today. Let's get right to it. Reese, if anybody could tell, I'm pissed. And the reason I'm pissed is because, one, what I cannot stand are Negroes who stand in front of white folks and do a dance, and it's a minstrel show, and they lie. What I can't stand is when they provide comfort food to white conservatives who don't give a damn about poor people. And then when they continue to promote this lie, oh, the Great Society is what destroyed black families. They don't want to say, and then they create this mystique that, oh my God, Black America was so wonderful and it was perfect and it was these oases of love and green grass and wonderful air. And yes, black folks in the midst of oppression, in the midst of pain, of degradation, had to fight and claw to create places that protected black people. But this idea that that was this wonderful life is absolutely nonsensical. And I love how they love going from slavery to present day.
Right.
As if there was nothing that happened after the Great Compromise of 1877.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Scott was up there just like a complete fool, spouting off white supremacist talking points, trying to make what has been systemic racism and oppression and violence and just everything being thrown at black people for centuries now into a matter of personal responsibility, into a matter of welfare queens and deadbeat absentee fathers. And it's just fucking ridiculous and it's offensive. It was ridiculous for him to say that black people survived slavery, like casually, oh, black people survived slavery, but, you know, welfare was a bridge too far for us. Like, this is so, like, disgustingly, I don't want to say the C word. I'm going to say just, I'm trying not to call them any kind of slurs, but.
Well, no, because I don't, first of all, you know, I don't
know
use,
we don't do slurs.
You know, I don't use it though, but I'm gonna call it what it is. And that is a lying, self-hating black man.
Yes, there we go. You put it better than I could without calling him a slur. But you know what I really want to hone in though, Roland, is, you know, the Republicans, the Steve Bannons and these other people have been talking about getting the black male vote, talking about how, well, Tim Scott, if he were the presidential nominee, he could, you know, knock off enough votes from Biden. I don't fucking think so. I don't think that black men listening to what Tim Scott had to say, throwing black men under the bus as being deadbeat dads who are the ruin of the black community, found anything appealing or attractive about what Tim Scott had to say or any of the people on that stage had to say about black people or about black men specifically.
See, Lauren, this is why, and I need people to understand this. My daddy texted me right now. I'm 55 next month. My brother 56 next month. My parents celebrated 56 years of marriage in June. So I ain't no black man. I ain't got no my daddy was never in my life story. I ain't got one of those. Right. My grandfather was married to my maternal grandfather was married to my maternal grandmother, I think it was 44 years. They lived 8 blocks from me. So he died when I was 15. So the first 15 years of my life, I had my daddy, I had my grandfather, and my mama had 4 brothers. So I had uncles, black men who were, so all I saw growing up were married black men taking care of families. But even though I saw that, I need people to understand that we were not poor, we were not rich. Mom and daddy never made in their life combined more than $50,000. I saw black people in Clinton Park in Houston who were poor. I saw that. And so what angers me is when Tim Scott stands there and wants to assign blame to the Great Society when the Great Society, let me remind Tim Scott, was launched in broke-ass West Virginia, where you don't even have 5% of black people. Bill Withers is from there. T.D. Jakes is from there. You ain't got that many black folks in West Virginia. LBJ didn't launch it in the Mississippi Delta. He didn't launch it in the Black Belt of Alabama. He went to broke, uneducated, no teeth, no health care, no jobs, cold field lung, West Virginia. And he stands there at the Reagan Library. And all these rich Republicans sitting here saying, say that, Tim. Yes, Tim. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Tim. We agree with you. And they don't give a damn about poor people when the same House Republicans advanced a proposal this week that cut heating assistance, that cut nutrition to mothers and children, that cut Pell Grants. So Tim Scott, don't you stand there and have the audacity to talk about the poor and the money that went to them and fatherlessness when your own party today don't give a damn about poor people.
Yeah. Well, Roland, I mean, to your point, your first point, I feel the same way. Anytime I hear these criticisms of black males, I always have to wince and think to myself that something is really wrong. My dad was a huge provider, as were all my other male relatives, and my neighbors, and even now, you know, my black male friends. I mean, they're carting around their kids to sporting events. All of this bullshit stereotype that Tim Scott put out there to please and comfort his white racist friends in the Republican Party is embarrassing. And it tells you something that he feels the need to be that person, always throwing black people under the bus. You know, I've never trusted anybody that hates the group that they are in. And of course, these Republicans, they need him for that messaging because, of course, they don't want to say it themselves. And the fact that the only black people that they like are the black people who hate other black people is a major tell that he's standing on the stage talking about the Great Society somehow being harder than slavery, when we all know that the Great Society was, in fact, responsible for Head Start. One of the biggest success stories in the government is, in fact, Head Start. The Job Corps program, obviously 64, 65, LBJ signed the Voting Rights Act, and also the Great Society improved unemployment. Tim Scott has got to know that on some level. So I think a lot of his deception is actually deliberate. At first Blanche, I thought maybe this is just pure stupidity, but I actually think some of this is very deliberate. On top of everything else, I'm sure the two of you, Reese and Roland, have probably been to South Carolina. I've been to South Carolina because, of course, it's a major primary state. And I can remember the first time I went there in 2008 when Barack Obama was running for president. It is shanty-level poverty in some places in South Carolina. It is the 10th poorest state in the United States. So, of course, we have to listen to Tim Scott say a bunch of bullshit. And then we have to realize that he has zero answers for the questions and the problems of poverty in the United States. He has zero policy solutions for any of these types of things that he's talking about. And then he effectively lies about LBJ and black men. That is his contribution to the evening. You've got Vivek Ramaswamy standing there, who is a full-on anti-black racist. You had DeSantis standing there, who is a full-on anti-black racist. We just had a double homicide in Florida by some racist after all of DeSantis's rhetoric. Tim Scott doesn't light anybody up on that, doesn't bring any of that up. We had the nonsense curriculum problem in Florida. Tim Scott doesn't bring any of that up because Tim Scott is a delusional, self-hating airhead. That's what he is. He's known for joking around about his socks with the cops on Capitol Hill. That's what he does. You know, he's cute, whatever. Every now and then something will happen. Walter Scott got, shot in the back by some cop. If you remember, years ago, Walter Scott was murdered by a cop in South Carolina. And, Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham got all upset about it. And then, of course, that floats away. Tim Scott is a dangerously stupid person, to say what he said last night. And that thing of what you said, Roland, at the top of your remarks with regard to black men and not taking care of their families, that is completely confusing to me, and it will remain confusing to me because I don't know any black men that do that. I never have, starting with my father, okay? And I find him to be deliberately, it's more than sort of hatred. There's just sort of that need, that deep need that Timmy has to be sort of flexing to white people in this way. And he did it again last night, and he will do it again. We're going to see this again, probably at the next debate.
So for the audience watching, so let me explain something to y'all. So when a Tim Scott complains about money coming from the federal government going to poor women and then saying that's what drove men out of the household, I want y'all to understand something. when the money goes from the federal government to the person in the state then gets credited for federal government going to them. Go to my iPad. This is a story from March 2023. 2023's most and least federally dependent states. Let me scroll through. In order to find out exactly how big the difference in federal dependence is from state to state, Wallet Hub compared the 50 states in terms of 3 key metrics. Main findings. Y'all see that map right there? Y'all see the one right here? The one represents the folk who get the most money. That's the dark green. The lighter you go represent who gets the least money. Oh, what happens when so look at this map here. Y'all see little states and light, then you see some dark. You see dark right there, dark there, dark there, dark there, dark, dark, dark. What we have in common? Southern states. So let's go right up. Look at this here, Kentucky. Look at this right here. Let's go right there, West Virginia, South Carolina. South Carolina ranks number 7. So Reese, out of the 50 states in America, 43 other states get less federal money than South Carolina, which means it's a bunch of broke, poor, single women, a bunch of broke, poor men in South Carolina, and he was in California, and it's blue states like California and Illinois and New York that send money to the federal government and get less back because it's going to broke states like South Carolina.
Sure is. That's what tripped me out too, because let's talk about Nikki Haley for 2 seconds, because she had the audacity to say that the red states were supplementing the blue states with the SALT deduction. I think the hell not. As a matter of fact, it's the other way around. And the Trump tax scam, which Tim Scott bragged about all night, about how he got all these people tax cuts. My taxes went up.
Hold up, Reese, we can help you out. Go to my iPad. 50 is New Jersey, 49 is Washington State, 48 is Utah, Kansas, Illinois, California, Massachusetts, Iowa, Delaware, Nevada, Colorado, New York, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Nebraska, Ohio, Florida. It's a whole lot of blue states down there that's not getting a lot of federal money. Nikki Haley, sit your ass down.
And Tim Scott bragged about the bill all night. He bragged about that same bill that raised the taxes on us. And so I hope that people are paying attention across the board to the kinds of policies that they're bragging about, which were actually detrimental to most of the country that are not in red states, and the kinds of things that they're trying to say they're going to do in the future. But I just want to say one more thing on Tim Scott, because I think it's very funny that he got up there and talked about how America's not a racist country and there's never has been, and this is the best place for me, and yada, yada, yada. But just last week, you were sitting up there crying because the white Republican donors wanted to know who your girlfriend was. And you try to sit up there and say that because they can't talk about you being black, then they want to talk about you having a girlfriend or female girlfriend, as you put it. I don't think so, Tim Scott. Don't try to pull black people into your inability to answer questions about who your female girlfriend is, your Christian female girlfriend that you supposedly have is. Don't bring black people in it. The same way, don't bring black men into what has been systemic racism since slavery. Don't bring single black women into what's been systemic racism until slavery. Don't pick and choose when you want to see racism from Republicans or from this country, and you only apparently see it when it comes to you not, or maybe, who knows, having a girlfriend.
And to Reese's point, go to my iPad. Senator Tim Scott says people point out that he's single because they can't say I'm black. Well, Tim, who's people? Because ain't no Democrats or progressives. They don't give a damn if you got a girlfriend or not. They ain't talking about that. It's your own party who is sitting here questioning whether you gay or not. Matt Schlapp was the one. Matt Schlapp, you know, the one who accused of grabbing a man's junk. Matt Schlapp said if Tim Scott becomes vice president under Trump, he'll be America's first gay vice president. That's what your own white Republican, the head of CPAC, said, Tim Scott. And go to my iPad, he told the Washington Post, it's like a different form of discrimination or bias. You can't say I'm black because that would be terrible, so find something else that you can attack. Oh, now you want to come to the cookout.
Yeah, he wants to be black when he's black, and then he doesn't want to be black when he doesn't want to be black. You know, so when a U.S. Capitol police officer stops him in the hallway, then he wants to be aggrieved. And now with these donor questions, he wants to be aggrieved. But, you know, it was no different than what was asked about Lindsey Graham when Lindsey Graham ran. You know, when there's a single man running, they get asked these questions, or a single woman.
Especially by Republicans. Especially by Republicans.
Right, especially with Republicans. So welcome to life running for, you know, president of the United States. You know, Tim Scott is just the quintessential thing that the Republican Party loves to promote, that Fox News loves to promote, the self-hating black person. That's who they like. That's who they promote. That's who they amplify.
So I'm gonna button this up this way, and I need everybody to understand something. I've had Senator Tim Scott on the show. I told y'all I was texting Senator Tim Scott about the George Floyd Justice Act. He only stopped texting me back when I jammed him up about what his own bill said that did not provide funding to the cops if certain laws were not passed. So I have no problem with Senator Tim Scott coming on this show, but he's going to have to answer the tough questions. The reason I am offended is because what angers me is when individuals, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, stand before audiences and lie. My problem is the lying. My problem is when you want to assign what has happened in black families with single mothers to the Great Society, but your mama got divorced. Your mama was poor. Your mama raised you and your brother. So here's what Fox News would never ask, and if Tim Scott ever wanted to come on this show, I would ask him, Tim, did your mama ever get government assistance? If your mama got government assistance, did your mama have a boyfriend? Did your mama consider getting married again? Did your mama have to make the decision that, well, if I get married to this man and he's making less than what I'm receiving, then that money gets cut out. We're going to have another mouth to feed in the household. That means less money. See, Republicans like Tim Scott don't want to deal with the very fundamental issue, and that is, if I am receiving support, why then can't we assist those who are already getting that particular money? And see, this is not new, what Tim Scott is talking about. This meme has been going around all the time. PolitiFact did a breakdown of a meme that was on Facebook that said quote, go to my iPad, LBJ's Great Society Welfare System, 1964, 7% black children born without a father in the home. Post LBJ Great Society, the number is 73. Well, the folks at PolitiFact broke this whole thing down and then began to address the issue. Then they said the first option addresses birth. A key focus of this, they said the figure ignores cases in which a couple isn't married, but where the father is living in the home. Then they said right here, in 1964, according to federal health stats, 24.6% of births to non-whites were considered illegitimate. the term used for out-of-wedlock births at the time. In 2012, for blacks, it was 72. They said this is a large increase. The more recent figure is more or less on target. However, the starting point in 1964 is higher than the Facebook post suggests. It then lays out what the numbers are. Then it begins to say that the figures are also wrong. It then begins to talk about, according to Census Bureau data, 20% of black children in 1960 were living with just a mother. The comparable figure for 2013 is 50% of black children living with a mother only. The measurement shows an increase, but the increase is 2.5 times bigger, not 10 times bigger, as the meme says, and it's up by 25 to 30 percentage points rather than the 66 points cited in the memo. Oh, black families weren't the only group to see an increase in single motherhood over the same time period. It says right here, fatherlessness among whites still rose between 1960 and 2012. 6% of white children lived in a single mother household in 1960, a figure that rose to 18% in 2013. That's tripling the number. Folks, this is what you cannot do. You cannot get sucked into folk throwing out stuff and stats and ain't no backup. When somebody gives something to me, the first thing I say is, where'd you get it from? Can you send me a link? Can you send me backup? You got any receipts? What you got? Your opinion and your emotion cannot stand. So what bothers me the most with Senator Tim Scott is you want to have a conversation about black folk with non-black people. But the same Senator Tim Scott is afraid to come talk to black people. You don't see Senator Tim Scott talking to black-owned media. You know why? Because that ain't his Republican base. Senator Tim Scott right now, the reason he keep going on Fox News, because he's talking to white people. He's talking to white conservative people. He's talking to older white people. He ain't talking to us. And so I'm not going to give him a pass because he's black. You're not going to stand there and just say stuff and then not get fact-checked, Senator Tim Scott. But if you want to come home and have a conversation, you're more than welcome to come here. But my name ain't Harris Faulkner, and you can't feed bullshit to me and call it a 5-star meal. When we come back, we're chatting with little Miss Flint. She's doing all she can to raise money and improve the water quality there in Michigan. And I bet Senator Tim Scott ain't trying to go to Flint and help her raise no money. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder, Disney Plus. And I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
It's been 9 years since the Flint water crisis became a national tragedy. Folks been to remember when then Governor Rick Snyder allowed for the state to take over the water system there, causing the problems in predominantly black Flint. The folks there have been living with this nightmare literally for the last 9 years. They're still being tested. They still are dealing with the issue of replacing pipes, you name it. And so our next guest, she has been very much involved in this fight. You've seen her on social media. She goes by Little Miss Flint. She's been growing up before our very eyes. And so, of course, she became known to a lot of people after meeting President Obama. That video right there, well, damn how she look now, like she growing up right before our very eyes. Mari Copeny joins us right now. How you doing?
Hi.
Good to see you. First of all, how old are you now?
I'm 16 now. Isn't that so crazy?
Oh, that's absolutely crazy. So you've been tweeting, and every time I see one of your tweets, I retweet it. You're out there raising money, and so tell folks, what are you raising money for?
So I'm raising money for my water filter.
All right. So explain, what is your water filter?
So, as you know, I have my very own water filter. I partnered with a company called HydroViv, and we got it in the works, and I got my very own water filter that gets shipped all over America, because it's not just Flint that has a water crisis. America has a water crisis, and it's not talked about enough. So I want to be the one to raise as much awareness for it as possible. So that's why I have my water filter.
All right,
so out literally all over.
So what does this water filter do? And the reason why it's really timely, because like literally, look, I don't fix nothing in my house. I'm gonna call somebody. So my wife like doing that stuff, and so she literally went to get the water filter replaced today. Again, that ain't what I do. I'm just use the credit card. So for the people who are watching, what does the water filter do, and where do you install it? On the faucet, the water that comes out of the refrigerator, how's it work?
Okay, so my water filter installs right underneath your sink. Literally, right underneath your sink, and it filters out any bacteria, lead, just basically anything nasty and dirty in your water. My water filter gets rid of it. It's gone. It's vanished. Pop, boom. And it gives you clean water.
So you've been raising money, and your goal is what, $1 million?
Yep, $1 million.
So how far are you away?
So currently, I am a little bit over past, I want to say 700. I'm so hard. I'm so bad with numbers.
Don't worry about it. Hold up. I'm walking over to the monitor, and so let me see. Let me see what we got. So you've raised $752,320. So you're about $250,000 towards your goal. And when you hit $1 million, what is the $1 million for? What does it do?
We're just gonna, once we hit that goal, we're gonna keep on shipping out my filters all over, because that is primarily my main top goal. I just want to get my filters out so everybody has clean water, because nobody deserves to have dirty water. Literally nobody. What does the filter cost? It's free. So right. So you're shipping out free, but if there's somebody out there who wants to buy the filter, can they? $200. I know it's a little bit much, but $200. Yeah, but the reality is a lot of people spend money buying bottles of water, and so if you can get clean water out of your faucet, then you're not sitting here polluting the environment by having all those plastic bottles. Yep. All right. So where can people go buy the filter or look at the filter? What's the website? Hydroviv.com. It's on hydroviv.com. Hydrovent.com? Hydroviv. HYDOD. I'm bad with spelling. Hydrovis.
I hear your mama whispering. Tell Lulu, hey. I hear. Tell her I said, hey. I hear her whispering. All right, so go ahead and spell it.
Okay. HYDROVIV.com. I don't know why that was so hard for me.
All right, y'all put a graphic together. Questions from our panel. Lauren, you first.
So, like, is there a goal number that you're trying to reach? You really have raised a ton of cash, which is great. But are you just going to do it forever, or is there a particular number goal you're trying to hit?
Well, you want to hit $1 million, right? But if you hit $1 million, you're going to keep raising?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. I would literally never stop. Never. I'm not going to stop until Flint is fixed.
Oh, wow.
Literally, period.
Now, do y'all have are y'all keeping account how many people in Flint have the filter?
I think a few people here have it filtered.
A few?
Wait, is it a few?
It's way more than a few.
See, I should be keeping up with that for real. She said it's way more than a few. I believe her.
There's over 1,000 of your filters here in the city.
For real? Why didn't I know that?
So more. Yes, Bar, you are live. Yes, we're live on the air. So this is not tape. So more than 1,000 folks have your filter there in Flint. How many filters have y'all shipped across the country?
Ooh, how many have we? It's been quite a few.
It's been
quite a few.
We ship pallet loads.
Yeah, we ship pallet. She said we ship pallet loads cross country.
So we ship them between like 200 to 300 filters at a time, and they're literally everywhere.
Everywhere.
All right, Reese, go ahead.
I love your energy. I love your spunk. It's so sweet and adorable. And your dedication. For students and people your age, you're 16, you're not even 18 yet. What do you say to them to get them involved civically and in their community, even though they can't vote yet?
Well, I can't vote yet either, and I'm just going to say what I always tell everybody, like, not everybody, but like every kid that's my age and younger that wants to get involved with doing activism work and try and help with their community, just speak up about it. Speak up about it, because you never know who's listening. I mean, that's literally what I did. I didn't know if anybody was going to listen to me, and now look where I am. I wouldn't be doing this interview if nobody listened to me. So that's why, like, you really have to speak up, use your voice, because nobody's going to be able to hear you if you don't use your voice. And I promise you, if you use your voice, somebody's going to give you a seat at the table. It doesn't matter who. Somebody's going to give you a seat at the table. And you never know who's watching. It could literally be a whole celebrity, or it could be a classroom full of little kids. It could be either or. You really never know. You don't know who's always going to support you until you start doing what you're passionate about. So literally, speak up and literally be confident about it. Be confident about it, because if you're not confident about it, then guess what? It's not going to go the way that you imagine or think or dream about how it's going to go. So you really, literally, like Nike, just do it. Just do it. Literally, just go for it.
So if you go to Little Miss Flint on Twitter, this tweet here was pinned 4 years ago today. And so you see the photo that is on the page. And so you see the sign she's holding where she says, not Flint has a water crisis, but America has a water crisis. And we've seen these problems all across the country. So it is important. So my whole deal, again, I'm telling you, my wife was looking for a water filter. So I'm gonna send her a text. I'm gonna say, yo, go buy one here. You ain't gotta send us a free one. We can afford to buy one. But you're absolutely right. Not only is you getting clean water, but it also, and I'm sure Mustafa Santiago Ali, with our environmental activists, will be happy. This also cuts down on folks buying water bottles. And so if you got your one container, you can now have clean water coming right out of your faucet using your filter. And so it's great that you're doing that. Folks, follow her on Twitter. Again, if you look at it, she's got, 141,000 followers. Her website is MARICOPE Copeny. So check that out as well. And please, folks, support her work. Like I say, every time I see one of her tweets trying to hit her goal, I always retweet that. So that's the GoFundMe right there. So go check that out. This is her website right here. And so all the information right here is on the site about information. Also helping me give back. You're going to have to take some new photos because you're bigger now.
Oh, yeah, I got to take some new cute photos.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so all the information is right there on the site. Mario, we appreciate it. Keep up the good work. And I know when you come of age, you're going to be the first one in line to vote.
Oh, of course, you already know it.
All right, well, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you so much.
And tell your mama hi, even though she's talking off camera.
Will do.
All right, be well. I tell you right there, Reese, that's the kind of energy we need. Look, in Texas in 2022, 75% of voters 30 and under did not vote. Mm-hmm. Sisters like her can't wait to vote, to use their power, and that's actually what we need to see more. And look, there are a lot of young people like her across the country, but we need more folks like her who say, you know what, I want to do my part to seize control, and if I can't vote, I'm gonna do what I can right now to be able to change this country.
Absolutely. I love her confidence, her energy, her authenticity. Y'all in the chat, stop talking about the girl, because she is a 16-year-old child who's very active. And she came up here and she showed her full self. So I would just be so proud if my daughter was on your show, 14 years from now, talking about her activism, playing with her hair, saying and having a high-pitched voice. I thought it was just so lovely. It's such a breath of fresh air after the madness that we've been talking about. It's grown people who are articulate and can sit up there and buck dance and say whatever kind of lies. And then you have this young, energetic, very active Black girl who is actually making a difference in her community. So I salute her in all her authenticity. And I want to see more young Black girls and young Black boys out there showing up as their full selves, making a difference in our communities.
Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see somebody with a policy solution, right? Instead of complaining all the time, which is what we get from a lot of our elected leaders are just complaining about things with no policy solution whatsoever. It's amazing that she has to come up with it, but she does have to come up with it, and she did, and it's a huge victory. So it's great to see.
Absolutely. Folks, speaking of what happens when you get new blood when we come back, wait till I show y'all Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's actually look like Lauren and Reese. Y'all, come on, go to real quick. Go to them, Anthony. Come on. They were like, oh, Lord, we going to that next. Yo, she went off today.
Yes.
In the BS Republican House impeachment inquiry. Y'all know I gotta play the video, not only because listen, I still got a house. So in the district I voted, I'm a constituent. So she ain't just a member of Congress, I'm a constituent. Oh, I can't wait to show y'all this video. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. You too, folks, hit that like button, y'all. We should be at 2,000 likes every single day we do this show. We also need you to support us when we do this show. I keep telling y'all, let me tell you something right now. Don't go to it yet. I'm telling y'all right now. I had a potential advertiser tell me that the reason they didn't advertise is because they didn't like one of my commentaries about a Republican politician. And I said, but I see y'all ads on Fox News. So I need y'all to understand, there are companies out there, car manufacturers, all these different people out there right now who do not support Black-owned media, won't give us any advertising dollars, will not support us at all. They come up with all these excuses as to why they can't buy ads and all that sort of stuff. And they do it all the time. All the time. That's why we're going to have, folks, next week, another special edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Go to my iPad. But we're going to break down part 2 of hashtag I'm Not Satisfied and how corporate America and white-run ad agencies are destroying black-owned media. That's going to be next Wednesday. When we broke that thing down, y'all, in May, I'm going to give y'all an update. And I'm going to tell y'all of the companies that are now advertising with us. I'm going to tell y'all about the companies like General Motors who like, yeah, we ain't got no money in 2023 and we don't know if we're going to have anything in 2024, but I'm seeing y'all ads run everywhere else. We're going to break the thing down. So your support is crucial. In my office right now, I got about 30 checks people send in. So people are sending us money on PayPal, on Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. When I tell y'all we have to raise $1 million a year from our fans, I'm not joking. Our expenses are $195,000 a month. That's for this show, the staff, the office space, the Comcast business, high-speed internet. The app, our OTT app alone is $161,700. I walk through y'all all of the expenses. And so when you hit that goal, and the goal is to get $20,000 fans giving on average $50 each, which is $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. What that does is that allows us to be able to breathe, not make cuts, give you high quality news, because guess what? Ain't nobody else in the black-owned space doing what we do. Let me be perfectly clear. Ebony not doing this. Essence is not doing this. Blavity is not doing this. Revolt is not doing this. Byron Allen's Griot ain't doing this. And they got 2 news shows, 1 hour each, but you get this show 2 hours a day. You get Faraja Muhammad's show 2 hours a day. D. Barnes' show is about to go to a daily show. You get Greg Carr's show. You get Deborah Owens' show, Jackie Hood Martin's show, Stephanie Humphrey's show. You get Roland with Roland. You get us covering live news conferences. You get us covering rallies. You get us covering events. You get us covering the relevant things that are happening on Capitol Hill. There is nobody in the black-owned media space that does what we do. We do more black news and information than any other black news source, period. Not Shade Room, not Jasmine Brand, not Ball Alert, not The Source, not Hollywood Unlocked, nobody. So your support is critically important. Send your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. You can also download your copy on Audible, the audio version on Audible. You can also watch us on Amazon News. Of course, on Amazon News, you can simply go to Amazon Fire, or you can tell Alexa, hey, play news from the Black Star Network. So you can do that as well. And so we appreciate if you do that. Then, of course, you can also go to Plex TV. This is our 24-hour day a week news channel, y'all, right there on Plex TV. So you can check us out there. And you know what? I'm going to hold that. I'm going to hold that. I'm going to hold that. Don't go to it yet. I'm going to hold it. A little bit later in the show, we're launching on 2 new platforms. And I'm going to show y'all what they are in about 15 minutes. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress,
whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Staying balanced is tough enough with the normal day-to-day stuff going on. But what happens when we get the unexpected? It may come crashing down through a bad diagnosis for either you or a loved one.
My son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came at a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business.
How to cope and even stay balanced when even the walls are crashing in. That's on the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, y'all. So the Republicans today opened this House impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden. 6 hours of big-ass waste. Oh, did we have some good moments. And one of the best moments in the 6 hours is when Jasmine Crockett, not Jasmine Crockett, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Jasmine Crockett. Y'all about to say, Jasmine, I know Jasmine Crockett. Woo, Lord. Jasmine Crockett broke out the folding chair and walked in that room with hashtag Team Whip That Ass. And here's what she had to say. She just laid out one of the Republican witnesses. Hit play.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Before I begin my questioning, I want to remind everyone that the information recorded in the FBI Form 1023 that my Republican colleagues keep citing is not evidence of anything. This form reflects years-old, secondhand, unverified information from a Ukrainian oligarch as relayed to the FBI by a confidential human source. These unverified secondhand allegations have been repeatedly debunked and undermined, including by the confidential human source who relayed this information to the FBI. The tip recorded in the Form 1023 was thoroughly explored by the U.S. attorney handpicked by Donald Trump, which was Attorney General William Barr, and the assessment was closed. Finally, Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's former business partner who worked with the Ukrainian oligarch in question, told this committee in a transcribed interview in July that he had no knowledge of any such payments allegedly described in this form. Repeating the same lies will not somehow turn them into truths. Kind of like the election that Trump lost. Say it with me, he lost it. Repeating the same lie that he won wasn't going to turn the election around. The lost in this chamber keep pushing lies and lunacy on behalf of a multi-time loser. So if we're going to talk about China, let's go ahead and talk about China. And let's talk about the dealings. And let me point out the fact that right now, each of you has admitted that none of you are fact witnesses. We walked in without facts. And unfortunately, because what we say isn't necessarily evidence, we have wasted the American people's time, and we are going to walk out of this chamber and we still have no facts that are leading to anything. But let me give y'all a little bit of tea while we're here. So I have a document that I will ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record. It's a fact sheet on President Trump's shady business dealings with the Chinese government.
What are you entering in? A record from who?
This is from the Congressional Integrity.
Congressional Integrity Project, the dark money pack?
I object.
I object to that too.
Of course y'all gonna object, but we gonna talk about it. So it says Trump has extensive financial ties to the Chinese government. President Trump collected millions from Chinese.
Of course y'all don't object. We gonna talk about it. Woo, Representative Crockett all in the ass. Hit play.
But we gonna talk about it. So it says Trump has extensive financial ties to the Chinese government. President Trump collected millions from Chinese government-owned entities while in office. I have the best tenants in the world, President Trump was well aware of the multi-million-dollar lease to Chinese interests. President Trump promised to donate foreign government profits while in office, but he donated less than a third of his proceeds from the Chinese government. President Trump maintained 3 foreign bank accounts while in office, including one in China. President Trump's business with China raised legal and ethical concerns. President Xi loves the people of China. He loves his country, and he's doing a very good job. Let me tell you something. I don't want to talk about what y'all want to act like is some big mystery, because we keep sitting here, and Professor Gerhardt, just to be clear, as my colleagues have even tried to provide evidence, which they're not the ones to provide evidence, have you ever heard them say "if" since we've been sitting here for I don't know how long?
Yes, I've been taking a tally.
Oh, okay. Can you show us? Can you tell us what the tally is?
More than 35 times, the Republican witnesses and Republican members of the committee have used the word "if."
Thank you so much for that. Because honestly, if they would continue to say "if" or "Hunter" and we were playing a drinking game, I would be drunk by now. Because I promise you, they have not talked about the subject of this, which would be the president. But let me tell you something that was so disturbing as I walked in to this chamber today. As I prepared, I said, what is the crime? Because when you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about high crimes or misdemeanors. And I can't seem to find the crime. And honestly, no one has testified of what crime they believe the president of the United States has committed. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me.
Did somebody say drink again? Hit play.
This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
This is all I saw. Yeah! 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 All beating that ass Reese with a folding chair.
Yes. Jasmine with the energy. They're not ready. They're not ready for this new crop of black women, black lawmakers, black men too, because Jamal Bowman brings them that work too. They're just not ready for black people showing up authentically in their space with all the volume, all the tone, all the hands and the heads of the hair flips. And, they're going to throw a little shitter in there, a little cuss word, a little half a cuss word in there. I just love it. I love it because I feel like there just needs to be a proportionate response to the absurdity and the theater that Republicans give. And the reality is the audacity that these Republicans have to getting ready to shut down the government, also trying to criminalize Joe Biden because Hunter got some crack shit, got some gun shit going on. Meanwhile, their presidential nominee, who don't even have to show up to debates because he's 60 points ahead of everybody else, got 91 charges. It's just all nothing but a farce. And I'm glad that you have people like Congressman Crockett. You also have people like Congresswoman Summer Lee from Pennsylvania, who was giving it to him on a whole different subject, really out there bringing it to him. Democrats, this is who you need to be looking at. I'm not saying everybody got to get all black girl magic on you, because all y'all ain't black. But you have to bring some fire and some heat and some scorn and some contempt and some mockery and some receipts. If you can get all that together, maybe you can wake some people the hell up and realize what the hell is going on with the Republicans or the inmates running the asylum, and we cannot have that.
Oh, absolutely. And Lauren, I was just sitting here smack. I'm telling, hey, remember we played that video when a white woman spit on the sister and she was beating her ass in rhythm? Woo! Crockett was all over those fools, and they literally had nobody speaking today who had any firsthand knowledge, no information, no nothing. Even Republicans, Lauren, were going, what the hell was today all about?
Yeah, they actually, a bunch of them left at the end when they were doing some of the final votes. There was a lot of Republicans who were missing. When you think about it from a communication standpoint, though, it's not a bad play for them. You put a bunch of junk out. You fill the machine with nonsense and lies and whatever, and you hope that the media repeats your nonsense. Donald Trump won with that messaging strategy in 2016. You just say a bunch of nonsense. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. You know, it gets printed in some form. So that is what the House Republicans are doing. And the problem is when you run up against a Jasmine Crockett or a Jamal Bowman or AOC or Hakeem Jeffries, who's very sharp on their feet with regard to messaging and returning fire, it doesn't work. And it particularly does not work in person. And that's where Jasmine Crockett really shines, when she is, you know, sort of just laying everything out. You'll notice, too, that one of the Republican witnesses, attorney Professor Jonathan Turley, basically got in there and said the opposite of what the Republicans wanted him to say, because even he couldn't bring himself to basically embarrass himself on television, on national television, because there's nothing here. There's no evidence. But you can see what the Republicans are doing. They're trying to marry the word impeachment to Joe Biden over and over and over and over again. I do wish the Democrats would add to some of their messaging, which has actually been fairly good from Jamie Raskin and, of course, Crockett, the Jared Kushner-Donald Trump issue, which, if you're the Republicans and you're arguing that Hunter Biden was using his influence to somehow benefit something he was doing and that somehow the president was involved, I'm not sure how the Democrats are not bringing up Jared Kushner and Donald Trump. But at any rate, it's so absurd what they're doing, and there is no connection, that the Democrats are basically just blowing them up right now.
And see, here's my, hey, Reese, ask and ye shall receive. Go to my iPad.
Their rent money is coming from. Many of them vote Republican, but I bet you not one of them cares more about Hunter Biden's laptop or helping Kevin McCarthy keep his gig as leader or speaker of his dysfunctional caucus than they care about receiving their paycheck and making their ends meet. And so the Republicans on this committee are betting that we'll spend this hearing engaging in partisan bickering over their favorite buzzwords rather than talking about how the MAGA shutdown will crush all of our constituents. To be honest, I don't quite care about private citizen Hunter, whom the proper authorities are dealing with, or the cable news culture war distractions. I care about the 7 million babies, children, mothers across this country who after Sunday will lose access to food and formula, over 10,000 in my district alone. I care about 300,000 families of 20,000 veterans who after Sunday could face eviction from their homes. Rare diseases and cancer patients whose experimental trials will be delayed for months. And I care about our seniors unable to get help with Social Security and Medicare. And make no mistake, their attacks are targeted, both in who's behind them and who are going to be hurt most. The most marginalized folks bear the brunt of these MAGA Republicans' attacks. Black folks, brown folks, trans folks, poor folks, disabled folks. Keeping that struggle in mind, we've had 2 hearings on the infant formula shortage on the subcommittee chaired by Congresswoman McClain. Yet with the 320,000 babies, women, and children in her home state of Michigan about to go hungry due to her party's shutdown, it seems like my Republican colleagues only care about an issue when they can point the finger in another direction, much like what's going on in this embarrassment of a hearing today. Mr. Gerhardt, in one of your recent op-eds, and you have repeated it here, you mentioned that a good test for assessing the constitutionality of a governmental action is to switch the names of the political parties and the actors involved. If the outcome is the same, it is a good sign of neutrality. If the outcome is not the same, then there's a good chance that partisanship is the driving force. I think we can safely say that this inquiry would fail that neutrality test. And since I don't have time, I think we can say that we are here, America, in this sham hearing, prioritizing the political needs of the Republican Party, pushing a lie for Donald Trump as you go hungry and you lose your homes. Shameful.
At the request of the witness.
Woo! See, that's what I'm talking about, Reese. If you're going to bring that heat, that's what you should do. You should, okay. If you're going to bring that heat, that's what you got to do. I keep trying to say to folk, you cannot play nice with these people. You cannot sit here and dance with these people. Come on, bring it here. You cannot. Matter of fact, Reese, this is what Joe Biden should do. So they call Joe Biden old, Reese. Joe Biden should sit here and get a cane and just do this here. Y'all want to swing? Let's swing. Because that's what you got. Throw the cap in the air and say, Calvary, they want to swing, let's swing.
Yeah. Well, clearly they got the right people on their team right now in these hearings because everybody's about that action. And I do have to add, though, Lauren, that Congressman Robert Garcia did do a whole presentation about Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. And so they definitely are talking about it on the Democratic side in these hearings about the hypocrisy of children being even a part of the question when Jared Kushner got how many billions of dollars from the Saudis or whatever the situation may be. But the reality is, to your point, Roland, I mean, I love what Congresswoman Lee did there, Summer Lee, which is bring it back to the receipts. The Republicans have nothing but distractions. We saw nothing but distractions on that debate stage last night. They have nothing but distractions with these hearings because the reality is, once again, when Republicans get control of any part of the government does not function properly. And more so, Kevin McCarthy is the weakest, sorriest leader in a string of sorry-ass Republican leaders, mind you, who cannot control his caucus. He had a deal that was negotiated with President Biden back in May, and he can't get his caucus on board. And so I'm glad that in the midst of dragging these Republicans, the witnesses, the sham-ass case about impeachment, they are still bringing it back to the fact that the Republicans are trying to harm our country with another pointless shutdown, just 2 days away now.
You know what, Lauren? I had just the other day, I was going through the checks, and somebody sent me a note telling me, Roland, you know, you shouldn't be going. I don't know who this woman was. She said, I watched the show, but as Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. Let me be real clear, okay? I like Michelle Obama. I appreciate her being first lady. Damn that. Damn that. I'm like homeboy. Chair, whoop their ass with a chair. Cane, beat their ass with a cane. If they go low, you punch their ass in the stomach. If they hit you in the knees, you punch their ass in the ankles. If they hit you in the ankles, you punch their ass in the bottom of their feet. What we are dealing with, the attacks on black people, the attacks on young people, the attacks on poor people, this ain't no time to go high. This ain't no time to be playing nice. When you in a street brawl, you ain't sitting here going old school, oh no, we throwing punches. Hell no, when you in a street brawl, you beat their ass with a cane, with a chair, with a branch, because it's all about winning, because that's how they play. That's how they care about. So, Lauren, I don't want to hear none of that go high bullshit. I'm talking about winning, and that means destroying the opposition.
Yeah, and this is all happening, too, at a time when the Republican Party is really melting down into something unrecognizable in terms of policy, and a former president running again who's talking about destroying the federal system right in front of our face. And thanks, Reese. I stand corrected. I'm glad that I'm glad they brought up the Kushner thing because that definitely needs to be brought up. You'll notice that their so-called best over there on the Republican side, at least in Congress, and the Democratic side, their best is really not to be matched. I mean, Summerlee, some of these younger members who've just come in who are younger millennials, I think Crockett is 42 and Summerlee is in her mid-30s. They're better than Marjorie Taylor Greene's and the Lauren Boebert. So they can't really keep up. And you sort of saw that, like James Comer cannot keep up with some of these more savvy, presentationally savvy members, many of whom are members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and their messaging. I mean, they just cannot keep up. There's a lot of complaining, that you hear a lot of times online about the Congressional Black Caucus being too old, this, and that. I'm not a big believer in putting down older politicians because that's where the power is. The power is in the chairmanships and the chairwomanships and the people like Maxine Waters and all that. But it is nice to see some of the younger members who are more savvy about their communication skills show up huge. And certainly, to me, my personal favorite is Jasmine Crockett. But my New York Bronx homie there, Jamal Bowman, is my other personal favorite. In terms of the messaging strategy, he really brings it really hard. You might remember the video of him and Marjorie Taylor Greene outside the House steps.
Oh, yeah.
In which he basically said to her, it's funny, his message basically was, you talk all the time, but you solve no problems. Solve a problem. Like you're always talking, but you bring nothing. Yep. And that should be the central message from the party at a time when literally our democracy is at stake.
Yep. I'm laughing is my final comment. I'm laughing because somebody in the group chat posted a comment that I'm cracking up, Reese and Lauren, because literally my daddy told me the same thing. When I was, he got a phone call from a teacher who felt that I was talking too much in class. My dad said, if you go back to the class and you don't shut your ass up, I'm going to stomp a mud hole in your ass. Somebody put that in the group chat and I hollered, and I stood there looking at my dad like, what is a mud hole? Then I didn't want to have to find out what it was. But then again, I told my dad he really should be apologizing to me because all that talking in class, I was practicing for what I'm doing right now. And as he watching the show in my house in Jasmine Crockett's district. So all that talking paid off. And shout out, I can't remember one of my fans who sent me this cane about 3 years ago. I don't know if y'all saw it. They made this cane for me, got my name on it. Got Roland Martin, and got A5A unfiltered on the other side, so I had to pull it out. All right, y'all, coming up next, we're gonna talk sickle cell, and don't go anywhere, y'all. I got a major announcement for y'all. I told y'all we're on Amazon News. We're also on Plex TV. We're launching on 2 new platforms. Y'all don't wanna miss when I make this announcement live right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. I don't want to hear no cappers trying to hit me up by the cane, because remember, alphas can do anything better than y'all. Back in a moment.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change, respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful, no, no.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, less than 5% of the top executive positions in corporate America are held by women of color. We know it's not because of talent. A recent study says that it's microaggressions, unconscious bias, and limited opportunities being offered to women of color. On our next show, we're going to get incredible advice from Francine Parham, who's recently written a book sharing exactly what you need to do to make it up into the management ranks and get the earnings that you deserve.
I made a point to sit down and I made a point to talk to people. And I made a point to be very purposeful and thought-provoking when I spoke to them.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Let's go. Hey, y'all, October is National Sickle Cell Awareness Month, and it's a disease that disproportionately impacts African Americans. Joining me right now is the director of Howard University's Center for Sickle Cell Disease, Dr. James Taylor. Doc, glad to have you on the show. When we talk about it disproportionately impacts African Americans, let folks know who don't quite understand how significant and severe sickle cell is.
So sickle cell is an inherited disease. It's caused by a mutation in hemoglobin that arose in Africa in the last 50,000 years. So it disproportionately affects people of African ancestry. To really put this in perspective, in the United States, it affects 100,000 people. And when you consider that only 10 to 12% of the U.S. population is of African ancestry, it's three times more common than the next most common genetic disease. It is a terrible disease. Your red cells that deliver oxygen to tissues have become sharp sickle-shaped cells that are like a half moon, and they clog up your blood vessels, depriving tissues like the kidney and muscles of oxygen, and it causes intense pain.
First of all, again, for those, who don't quite understand, that sickle cell disease, the sickle cell trait, and they're not the same.
They are not. Trait is a carrier with one of the mutations. Somebody with the disease has two mutations, and that's the one that has the episodes of intense pain, and you die at a younger age.
And then disease is?
And the disease is where you have two mutations and your red cells are not normally shaped. They form the half moon sickle shape instead of a nice donut-shaped disc.
A lot of people don't even realize they have the trait that all of a sudden when they go to places like Colorado, that high altitude, then they begin to have issues. We've seen athletes. I think Ryan Clark was a Pittsburgh Steelers player, and some other players. I mean, they literally could have died as a result of being in that high altitude.
Absolutely. And so every athlete in the United States, every child in the United States is screened for sickle cell trait. But certainly all high school athletes are screened too. And we pay a great deal of attention to this so that they don't run into problems either at altitude or with extreme exercise.
Questions for the panel. Lauren, you're first.
So how many people are diagnosed per year? I heard you say 100,000, but is that the number of people who are diagnosed per year?
No, that is the overall number of affected patients in the United States. So we're looking at probably a few thousand new diagnoses every year, but very significant.
Okay, thank you.
Reese.
Doctor, is this a matter of resources needed for research investment to try to find a cure for this? Or what do you sound like you're starting to answer? Oh, okay.
So sickle cell was described in 1910, and it wasn't until 1972 that we started to do any research on it, and it required a piece of federal legislation called the National Sickle Cell Control Act. But that only ran for 3 years, and since then, we receive 1/3 the funding that was available in 1975 when you convert it to today's dollars. So absolutely, this is a modern healthcare disparity. We don't have enough resources to care for the patients or in terms of research.
And we see some work out there being done by St. Jude, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and others. what do you need our audience to be doing when it comes to elected officials in sickle cell?
So two things. Talk to your legislators and tell them to support sickle cell research. Become informed about the disease if you're of African ancestry. Find out if you have sickle cell traits. And third, especially if people of African ancestry, donate blood. Very, very helpful to the patient population.
All right, Dr. James Taylor, always a pleasure. We appreciate your work. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. I got some big news. When we come back, announce that I'm going to announce to you first. I haven't put it on social media. You're going to hear it first next on Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Staying balanced is tough enough with the normal day-to-day stuff going on. But what happens when we get the unexpected? It may come crashing down through a bad diagnosis for either you or a loved one.
My son, he actually was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it came at a very challenging time in my life. I had a lot going on with starting a new business.
How to cope and even stay balanced when even the walls are crashing in. That's on the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
All right, folks, you also heard me talk about that our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week Black Star Network streaming channel is available on Amazon News. So you go to Amazon Fire TV, and then you go through and you simply find us in News and Opinion. You can also tell Alexa, play news from the Black Star Network. Then you can actually go to Plex TV, which is another fast channel. You can actually watch our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel. That is, we program it with our speeches and protests and events and shows and all of that. Well, today, folks, I'm proud to announce you now can watch the Black Star Network 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel on Amazon Freevee and Amazon Prime Video. And so that's right, we're on Amazon Prime Video, and so we've got Prime Video up right here. And so if you go to Prime Video, you could actually go to Find, and we should be able, let's see here, let's see, go ahead and spell this thing. Well, these are actually the movies right here. So I'm gonna go right over here. So if you go over to Live TV, So we are on their live TV. You see they got recently added. Boom! Right there. So you see right here. Our Black Star Network. So, and right now it's showing, it says Roland Martin's Book Club, but it should be, have our feed there. And so that's right now what's on Amazon Prime Video. And so we are populating that. And so remember, they have Freevee, and they got Freevee, and they have Amazon Prime Video. And so we're now on 4 different FAST channels. We're still on our YouTube channel. We still want you to, of course, watch our YouTube channel because we get revenue. Most of our revenue comes from our YouTube channel. But there are a lot of people who watch Amazon Prime Video, who watch Plex TV, who watch Amazon News, who watch Freevee, who don't even go to YouTube. And so we're now on these particular platforms right here. And so we're so excited by that. And so I told y'all we have been building. We've been building and building and building the network. And so this right here, again, is one of the promos that you see running right now on Amazon Prime Video. And so we are absolutely excited. Look, I told you this is the 5th year. We launched Roland Martin Unfiltered 5 years ago on September 4th. We launched the Black Star Network 2 years ago on September 4th. And so we have been methodically just building, getting on these various platforms. Yes, there is a delay. And so you see, I've been talking probably about a couple of minutes now. And so you see right here, the live program that exists right here. And so you're seeing the show on here. And like I say, it just started today, and so we still got some kinks to work out, and so that's why you're seeing the content right here and then the schedule, but those things are going to get worked out, so we're absolutely excited. And the thing here, and then, what happens here, Reese and Lauren, is that like a lot of these networks, these fast channels, it's a revenue sharing deal, so advertising that's sold on the platforms based upon viewership also comes back to us. And this is a way for us to be able to build and grow. It's methodical. And like I say, we've been on Amazon News now since January. I think we've been on Plex TV since April or May. And today we launch on Amazon Prime Video and we launch on Freevee. And so if people go to these networks, when they click live TV, and they go to that grid, our network is right there along with CBS, ABC, and the rest of them. And Reese, we are the only Black news and information digital network in the country.
Congratulations, Roland, again for like the 50th time, because this is amazing. And I am all the way here for going to where the eyeballs are, because so much of what Black media, independent people like yourself have to do is try to bring the eyeballs to them and carve out a space that is our own. And you are really taking it to another level by bringing your platform to where people already are, so that people can stumble upon it, so that you don't have to spend as much money on recruiting and attracting viewers. And that way it's easier to attract those ad dollars, because I know you are still not satisfied. And so I'm hoping this is another tool in the toolkit to tell those people to show you the money, because you deserve it. And Black people need Roland Martin Unfiltered, and the Black Table, and the culture, and all of that the Black Star Network has to offer. And Lauren, here again, if they go to Amazon Prime Video, we're on the live grid. But if they also go to news, they'll see this is where our network is. But when you go up, what are you seeing? USA Today, Cheddar, Vice, Insider, Scripps. You're seeing all the networks there. Reuters, Washington Post, Today Show, ABC News, NBC, CBS. And so all of that's important for our audience, because again, what that means is just like those news networks, we're in the exact same place, putting our content up against theirs. And if I go through here on the news side and I'm looking and I'm going through here, I'm trying to see who else is on here. Vice, Cheddar, USA Today. I see these local news channels, these ABC channels. I see all of them. I don't see any other Black network with a news channel on Amazon Prime Video. And again, I ain't got nothing against entertainment. Knock yourselves out.
but we have got to have news and information. We are informing our audience, and so we are excited to be launching on Amazon Prime Video and Freevee.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations. It's all in the narrative, and it's all who controls the narrative. And the things that don't get reported are absolutely incredible, as everybody knows. And this fixes that problem, and it's fantastic. I mean, I just cannot believe how many platforms that are out there that, you know, we have all those platforms, all that content, and yet you're doing something that nobody else is doing, period, end of story. There is no other comparable platform like this one. There just is not.
And so, again, and to our audience, y'all have played a huge role. To all the folks who've been contributing, who've been commenting, absolutely. Look, we are building this brick by brick. We could have easily gone out and raised a bunch of money. And I'll just give you an example, Reese. Man, who are those folks? The recount. Who's the guy? John Heilman, that's who it is? Okay, they went out, and now here's the deal. The recount launched the exact same time that we did, 2018. They launched, matter of fact, I'm gonna pull this up. The recount launched in 2018. And earlier this year, they announced that on December 1st, 2022, go to my iPad, they announced they were suspending operations. The thing that's crazy, hold up, I'm gonna have to sit here. Okay, they won't let me get out of this page. Come back. So the thing that's crazy here, Reese, the recount raised $32 million.
Mm-hmm.
They raised 32, matter of fact, no, go to my iPad now. They raised $34 million. And what was crazy, this is the one that still blows me away, Reese. I'm still stunned by this one, Reese. The line right here, the company which raised over $34 million since 2020 struggled to find a profitable business model. Like most media companies, its prospects grew worse amid the economic downturn. Reese, here's what's crazy. We launched September 4th, 2018. We became profitable March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
They raised $34 million and shut down. They got sold for pennies. Their Twitter feed. In fact, the reason I'm saying this, and I'm not hating on them, but I'm trying to get our audience to understand, one, how black people do not get venture capital money.
Right.
Two, how we can show success and other folk still get money.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy thing to me, the greatest asset the recount had was their Twitter feed. Go to my iPad. They got 361,800 Twitter followers. Mm-hmm. Well, hell, if I go to mine, I got 708,000. And so we ain't even gotten, please, $34 million. And so it has been our fan base that they've contributed more than $2 million since we started. That is what has helped sustain us. And when I tell people now what we built, yes, that's $2 million over 5 years. The reality is we built this thing now to where we have to raise through our fans at least $1 million a year. And I purposely chose not to do a subscription. I didn't want to charge people $2.99 or $3.99 a month because a bunch of our people could not afford $30, $40, $50 a year for a subscription. We wanted to keep it open and free. And so that's why it's important. But it's really important, I think, for a lot of black people. And I had some dumbass out there, Roland Martin sitting here begging for money. Well, yo ass listen to NPR, you listen to PBS stations, and they do fundraisers all the doggone time. And so if we ain't getting money from the ad agencies, well, hell, how do you think we have news? Because ain't none of this stuff free.
Right. And also, Roland, I mean, it's not like you do a big party every year where people get to spend $100,000 on a table and you make your money that way. You know, you really make your money by putting in the work and people finding value in that and investing in a Black news network that actually enriches us and tells us stories that aren't being told in the same way with the same freedom, without that white gaze and that white overseer right on your back trying to sit up there and be like, reel it back in. And so I really just appreciate what you bring to the table. And clearly Black America does, because I was out last week, Roland. I wasn't as VIP as you were in all those spots, but I did see you. And I have to say that everywhere I turn, wherever Roland is, there's a crowd of people. Everybody knows who you are. Everybody respects what you do. And so I just think that it's so important that people realize that this is not a Roland ego, a Roland thing, because you could very easily, if you wanted to, you could sell it off. You can take a piece of the pie and present it as your own and really bring the money in. But this is still your baby, and it's really grown and blossomed to give so many of us opportunities. And so continue to invest and believe in it, because let me tell you something, 2024 is a whole different beast. You had Trump just the other day talking about how General Milley should be executed, and all the shit that these Republicans got planned for us next year. It's going to be a whole different story. So we need people. There are more Black media people out there. Yes, that is true. But the relentless focus that you have in being independent and bucking whatever trends is happening in the news that week is really what's going to be so important in 2024, especially.
And Lauren, what people don't understand is, and again, I got no problem being transparent. All of the shows on the Black Star Network, they're all being financed by deficit spending. What I mean by that is, that's why I'm gonna deal with this on Wednesday. There were some advertisers, ad agencies that said, well, we wanna see your slate of shows, okay? I gave them slate of shows. Well, we wanna see the shows on air before we advertise, okay? We put them on air and advertise. Right. No money spent. So all of the money to launch the Black Star Network, all the money that we spent, not a single ad dollar has come back for all those shows. So the Black Star Network shows are being paid for out of the money we make on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So I could very easily shut down the network, close all those shows, and cut my expenses considerably and just, hey, chill out, do this show for 2 hours and move on. But we want to actually build something that's larger, that's sustainable, and that's where we're fighting this good fight. And so I need the audience to understand, when I start telling y'all what companies these ad agencies represent, and you now know what companies are not spending money with us, and then when I see those ads on other news networks and they claim, oh, we don't buy news, our people then have to say, yeah, we ain't buying y'all product. Because people got to understand, it's real easy to talk that trash. We need this, we need that. Oh, I don't like Bob Johnson because he sold BET and he got rid of news. But do you watch? Mm-hmm. Do you support? So it's real easy people talk that stuff about what we need, but then they don't follow up with the support. And I got to say this here, Lauren. Out of the 20, I think Keenan, let me know what the number is. I think we've had a total of 24,000 people who've contributed. Mm-hmm. We've had less than 100 people complain that we don't send swag. And so, look, our staff, yeah, we've got the hats and the shirts. But I told our audience, if we had to send y'all hats and shirts and mugs and bags and stuff, y'all, the money's gonna be spent on swag and the postage. So when people give, that money is coming right into the show, and it's paying for vendors and freelancers, it's paying for staff, it's paying for all these folks. And so that's the thing I just need people to understand that what's going on. And I appreciate that 99.8%, 0.9% of all the people who supported us, not one complaint saying, well, you didn't send me a hat. Because what they said is, when I give, I'm getting the news and information in return. Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say, Reese just had reminded me during CBC week, you know, the idea that, I mean, there's so many people watching this show. I know you know that, Roland, from when you walk around. But I mean, I feel like I'm getting stopped even more and even more. Of course, if I go to a Black event, It stopped all the freaking time. But it's on the numbers are on blow up. And you reminded me too, I got to send a check in, which I should have sent already. But yeah, I totally see the struggle with the advertisers. They can see you building. And I just think it's a political thing. It has nothing to do with them not having the money. After seeing so many of the sponsorships last week at the convention center, you can see where the corporate money is going and what they spend on and what they don't spend on.
Parties.
And exactly right. And messaging and communications is hugely important, and it's hugely powerful. People know that it's powerful. They know that's where the power is, and they know that you're doing something that's outside of the typical box of what corporate mainstream media is doing. And that's why I think there's a lot of resistance.
Folks, Keenan told me we've had, since we launched, 26,592 people who have contributed to the show, who are members of the Bring the Funk fan club. Lauren, Reese, I certainly appreciate y'all joining us today. Thank you so very much. Yeah, folks, I know we overtime. That's why we on the grid here as well, but we'll be back on schedule tomorrow. But wanted to break that down for you. Please, your support is critically important. I've laid it out for y'all what it is, what the reality is. I don't sit here and fake the funk. I don't hide stuff. Y'all ain't got to sit here and question, well, what they doing. By the way, our Sprinter, man, y'all, they were literally, our Sprinter the new one's was built. They were driving it to us the week before Essence. Someone hit it in Ohio, straight up. They have to drive it back to Kansas City, and so it'll be another 2 months before we get our new Sprinter. I know, I was sick too. So that's what's going on, but we're moving forward, it's happening. So please support us in what we do. We are out here doing the work, y'all, every single day. Every single day. We've got 3 or 4 positions that we haven't filled. I'm being straight up with y'all. We got 3 positions that we have not filled because our donations slowed down and because the advertising that we're expecting from these agencies never came. And so you're talking about right there. So when I say we're down $325,000, those 3 positions are about $180,000 to $200,000. We can't fill them because we got to make sure that we can pay everybody right now for next year. So I got to manage the cash flow as best as I can. So your support is critically important. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, when you buy my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, that money comes right back into the show. And so please support us. Ben Bella Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Bookshop, Chapters, Books A Million, Target. You can get the audio version on Audible. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, which you can now see on Amazon News, Plex TV, Freevee, Amazon Prime Video on their live TV grid. Hello! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?